Picture for an instant entering a room where silence is thicker than words, where every look, every inhale holds unspoken realities. In one corner, two voices softly shudder with anxiety, bearing decades of narrative and collective survival. In the other, one voice vacillates between justification and introspection, suspended in the fragile balance of relationships that stretch over years, children, and remembrance. This is not a scandal story. It's a story about family, trust, and the invisible threads that bind us together, even when they seem ready to snap. It started with something that few families ever have to deal with in public. A conversation, unseen by the camera eye, brought out naked emotions and instances of vulnerability that normally lie behind closed doors. For the Brown family, it was a glimpse, rare as it was, into the secret heartbeat of their lives, a reminder that even in polished veneers and perfectly polished public moments, there live real people wrestling with doubt, questions, and the ongoing task of trying to figure each other out. At the heart of this tranquil tempest stand three women, each with her own story, viewpoint, and voice. Meri, reflective and measured, tended to bear the mantle of the listener, listening, soaking up, weighing her words before she spoke. Her words, measured and factual, bear a gravitas that only decades of such familial experience could provide. And then there is Janelle, whose voice tended to have the warmth of compassion and the power of conviction equally. She speaks with purpose, not anger, but from a profound need to defend the relationships that bind her family. Lastly, Robyn, muddling along on the difficult ground of being both challenged and challenged by, speaks back in a mix of defense, introspection, and finally, openness. What is it like when honesty is challenged, not by outsiders, but by intimates? How does a family find its way through the delicate tightrope between openness and cover-up, between conflict and forgiveness? These are issues that resonate far beyond the confines of any single home. They ring in the homes of viewers, particularly those who have lived decades tending relationships, brokering misunderstandings, and striving for resolution in the rich terrain of family life. The leaked audio that has emerged does not merely disclose a conversation, it reveals an emotional terrain. It records the faint quivers of tension when trust is pressed. It lets us listen in on the cautious options in tone, the silences that speak more than words, and the moments when feeling bursts through despite the attempt at control. For anyone who has ever endured a sensitive confrontation with someone they love, there is an unmistakable echo here. The terror of speaking too much, the fear of being misinterpreted, and the silent hope that in the end, understanding and connection can still be achieved. In this personal showdown, the stakes become unexpectedly universal. Underneath the details of a big, unconventional family, there is something universal: the effort to be heard, to be believed, and to hold on to relationships even when there are disagreements. Meri and Janelle, bound together in their concern, address inconsistencies that they feel have impacted the family life. Their manner is assertive but even-handed, balancing honesty with empathy. They are not assaulting, they are seeking understanding, attempting to maintain the dignity of a family system that has endured years of public criticism and personal setbacks. Robyn's replies, at first defensive, gradually open out into reflection and explanation. Her voice bears the burden of one attempting to live up to expectations while still being honest from her point of view. At these times, readers can feel the gentle push and pull of feeling, the tension of responsibility, the need for comprehension, and the exposure that results from being asked to explain oneself to the people who care most about you. It is in this delicate exchange that the tale gets its emotional core. And yet, even in conflict, there is affection. Even in tension, there is optimism. The dialogue, as crude and unvarnished as it is, finally speaks to the common human experience of yearning to connect. It reminds us that relationships, particularly those formed over many years, take work, time, and a willingness to hear uncomfortable truths. For grown-ups viewing, especially for those who have long struggled through complicated family relationships themselves, their familiar lessons, laid out in the intimate and gripping framework of a family many have watched for years. As you listen, think about the quiet changes in tone, the slightest pauses, and the space in which words float, full of meaning. Imagine the bravery it must take to talk truthfully, ask probing questions, and listen receptively in turn. The recording is not just a leak, it is a mirror held up to the tenuous yet resilient nature of human relationship. It calls us to think about our own relationships, about the times we've spoken, held back, asked questions, or forgiven. It reminds us that even in complex families, communication is both a challenge and a lifeline. This is the tale that plays behind the glossy sets, off camera, and script. It is one of women finding their way through loyalty, truth, and the delicate waltz of relationships among one of television's most talked about families. It is one of confrontation without brutality, of seeking truth without malice, and of the perpetual optimism that even tough conversations can make us stronger, not weaker. And as we enter this tale, it is not possible not to ask, how do we deal with the truths that we encounter within our own families? How do we weigh honesty against compassion, confrontation against understanding? In the pages that follow, you will read every quiet moment of the dialogue, every nuance that reveals not only conflict but the human heart reaching for clarity and connection. So, breathe a breath and come with me into an intimate world of emotion, voices, and truths that were never intended to be out there. But now, through this recording, provide a raw glimpse at what occurs when honesty collides with courage, and when family bonds are pushed to the test in ways that are both universal and deeply poignant. It all started with a leak that sent shockwaves immediately through the Sister Wives fan base. Secret audio recordings popped up seemingly from nowhere, showing a heated off-camera confrontation between Meri, Janelle, and Robyn. For faithful viewers, this was something entirely new. The cameras always capture the edited, glossy versions of dialogue, the family laughing together, enjoying moments of tenderness, or working through disagreements in masterfully constructed scenes. But this recording provided something else, raw, unedited, and genuine emotion no editor could possibly polish. From the initial seconds, it was evident that this wasn't an offhand conversation. The dialogue begins easily enough, almost deceptively so, with Meri talking in her normal calm voice. But as the conversation progresses, tension incrementally builds, uncovering more profound layers of strife. Meri lays out her concerns with great care, selecting each word with great precision, but beneath the surface calm of her tone, there is a faint quiver to her voice that suggests the emotional burden she bears. She is not screaming or attacking. Her flat tone makes the gravity of her concerns even more compelling. And then Janelle enters the conversation, as always speaking her mind and telling it like it is. Her voice carries a mix of frustration, worry, and determination, creating a sharp contrast to Meri's measured delivery. Janelle doesn't mince words, and it's immediately clear she feels a strong responsibility to address the inconsistencies she perceives in Robyn's recent actions and statements. For fans, it's a rare opportunity to hear Janelle speak openly, without filters or the structure of a TV scene dictating her words. There's a sincerity here that will have listeners cock their heads, asking themselves what Robyn is going to say. Without even images, sound manages to convey the whole range of feeling. You can hear the hesitations as the women consider their words, the soft sighs that interrupt moments of tension, and the little hesitations before declarations are uttered, tiny but significant signals of stakes involved. There is no percussion score or cinematography to create suspense. Tension is purely human, born of decades of friendship, accumulated history, and the burden of belonging to a big, complicated family. For longtime viewers of Sister Wives, this audio is hypnotic. It's not the drama alone that's so compelling, it's the authenticity. Here are the family many people have seen on television for years, but now without script, production cut, and show framing. With this audio, listeners are offered a glimpse into the raw, unfiltered dynamic of the Brown family, where emotions are immediate, and every utterance matters. Questions spring to mind. What drove Meri and Janelle to go confront Robyn like this? What conflicts have been building beneath the surface, hidden from the cameras? And most significantly, how will Robyn react when confronted by two of her co-wives who stand together in concern? The leak is remarkable not due to scandalous material alone, but because it breaches the fragile equilibrium of trust, integrity, and responsibility in a family that is at once intensely private and in the public eye. It invites viewers into a world where words have consequences, feelings run deep, and the relationships on which the family survives are strained in real time, away from the cutting room. As the discussion progresses, it is apparent that this is not merely a showdown, It is a turning point, a glimpse behind the scenes in which the Brown wives dance around honesty, fidelity, and the emotional ins and outs of living in a family like no other. The fans are not hearing drama. They are seeing the humanity in a show that has enthralled viewers for decades. Meri starts off softly in a composed manner, but there's weight in her words that instantly demands attention. Throughout the audio, from the very beginning, it becomes apparent she has given careful consideration to what she intends to say. She talks in a soft clarity, carefully selecting her words, not to provoke or belittle, but to find understanding. For anyone who knows Meri, this is so her measured and considerate, but firm enough to express the gravity of the matter. You know, we've always tried to be honest with each other, she explains, her voice calm, with only a hint of feeling beneath the placid surface. And I feel like recently, some things just aren't adding up. It's a plain statement on the face of it, but it holds immensely more than the words alone. For those listening, it immediately establishes the emotional tone. This is not a relaxed chat, nor is it a confrontation stemming from wrath. It's a time for telling the truth. Meri is showing concern for what she calls misinformation Robyn might have given the other wives, which serves to point out a sensitive crack in the trust that holds this polygamous family together. The power of the scene is in its subtlety. Meri doesn't yell. She doesn't accuse or command. She simply allows her words to be serious and vulnerable. There's an almost clinical precision in her delivery, a contrast to the storm of emotions that are undoubtedly present beneath the surface. Listeners can hear the slight tremble in her voice at times, betraying the personal stakes involved. Decades of shared experiences, memories, and connections are on the line. Meri's calm approach also serves to create a sense of relatability for viewers, particularly older audiences. Most of us have had moments in our own families when tough talk must occur, not from anger, but from love and a need for understanding. Having Meri sort out this thin line makes the scene feel real and emotionally true. She teaches how to deal with conflict with honesty, but still with respect, a lesson that rings loud beyond the walls of the Brown family. As the discussion unfolds, the stakes are revealed. Family trust is at stake, and Meri recognizes that the issue needs to be tackled directly. However, she does it with caution, not wanting to blow the situation out of proportion in a conflict. Her measured tone paves the way for Janelle to enter the fray, indicating that this is an orchestrated attack on inconsistencies and seeking answers without emotions running helter-skelter. Every pause, every slight inflection in Meri's voice, communicates both the weight of the concern and the hope that clarity can be achieved. She is not simply calling out Robyn. She is inviting dialogue, understanding, and ultimately resolution. For viewers, this creates a sense of anticipation, leaving them wondering how Janelle will respond, and how Robyn will react to being confronted by two of her co-wives united in concern. By the time Meri has finished her opening statement, it is evident that this is more than a family dispute. It is a turning point in the Brown family, where honesty, responsibility, and trust are being pushed to the limit in an intensely personal and emotionally charged manner. After Meri's calm yet powerful opening, Janelle steps into the conversation, and the energy in the room subtly shifts. Her voice is more forceful, carrying a firmness that immediately signals her seriousness. Yet, beneath that strength lies sincerity and concern, a combination that has always defined Janelle's presence in the Brown family. She doesn't speak to attack or belittle, but to protect the family bonds and seek the clarity everyone needs. We can't turn a blind eye to this, she insists, her voice calm but resolute. Robyn, we require honesty. We've all tried our best to make this family stand strong, and secrets only make it fragile. Her words land like a soft but persistent reminder of what's at stake. For viewers, it's compelling to see Janelle air her irritation so forthrightly, particularly because it is raw. There are no cameras directing the shot, no producers editing the dialogue for dramatic impact. This is straight-up conversation, and each syllable is freighted with years of collective family life, sacrifices, and the daily struggle to hold together in a complicated household. Janelle's entering the conversation cuts to the chase. Whereas Meri set the stage for rational reasoning, Janelle introduces a sharpened tone, pointing out inconsistencies she has witnessed and directly demanding explanations from Robyn. She neither avoids asking the difficult questions, nor presents them in a confrontational manner. The listeners can sense the tension rise with each hesitation, each deliberate phrasing, and each held breath as the women step through a fragile emotional terrain. What makes this scene so compelling is the combination of toughness and understanding in Janelle's tone. She is angry, yes, but she is also highly dedicated to maintaining the integrity of the family. Her voice conveys urgency without anger, frustration without spite. A talent that speaks deeply to audiences, particularly to those who have spent years brokering or engaging in delicate family conversations themselves. The tension in the sound is felt. You can listen to tiny silences as ideas are weighed painstaking, the silent gasps of effortful feeling, and the omitted words suspended between them. There's rhythm in the conversation, there's a give and take that speaks not only what is spoken, but what is felt. Each second brims with expectation. How will Robyn react? Will she explain, will she defend, or will she withdraw? The ambiguity makes the audience tune in, and each sentence precious. To the viewers, it's a candid and unique insight into the interactions between Kody's wives behind the cameras. It's one thing to watch meticulously planned scenes on TV, but hearing the unfiltered, unprompted voices of Meri and Janelle discussing a delicate matter provides viewers with insight into the family's genuine relation. It's a reminder that behind every staged television moment is an actual complicated web of allegiances and obligations that inform every encounter. After the conclusion of Janelle's words, the stakes are clear. The dialogue has shifted from observation to outright confrontation, yet at its core, it still is. These women are on the same side insofar as they share a devotion to truth, openness, and the welfare of their family. It is a time of tension, but also of concern, and it prepares the way for Robyn's answer, an answer that will disclose not only her attitude, but the thin threads on which the family lives. After Meri's calm ring and Janelle's firm intervention, all eyes, or rather all ears, toward Robyn. Her initial reaction is naturally defensive, a mix of surprise and unease. The audio captures every nuance, a slight hesitation, a soft intake of breath, and the careful way she chooses her words. She knows the stakes are high, and for the first time in the conversation, the weight of accountability settles squarely on her shoulder. Listen, I didn't intend to deceive anyone. Robyn insists softly, the words now filtered through a tone of introspection, a touch of remorse. I believed I was doing what I should. Her words are deceptively simple, given the depth of emotions that underlie them. This is not an attempt at a justification, it's an expression of vulnerability, the sort that does not usually find its way into public. Robyn's words show a person torn between intention and perception, one attempting to walk the fine line of peace in a family as complicated and clearly watched as the Browns. It serves as a reminder to audiences that even when actions are misread or misunderstood, the human heart is attempting to chart its course toward what feels right. As she goes on, the sound captures small fraction defense replaced step by consideration. The listener can hear the measured pace, the hesitations that indicate she's balanced, little sighs that bear relief but it becomes apparent that she knows how much Meri and Janelle care about the family's trust and happiness, and that realization starts her answer. She's not just explaining, she's engaging, trying to rebuild understanding and bridge the gap created by myth. This is a pivotal moment in the conversation. Up to this point, the tension had been high. Meri's calm and Janelle's assertive question had created a pressure that demanded clarity. Now, with Robyn beginning to open up, there's a noticeable shift. The rage and annoyance that characterized earlier interactions begin to give way, to be replaced by a wary, tentative sense of comprehension. Listeners can sense almost the shift in the room. The conflict is still intense, but there is space for reconciliation, for discussion, for restoring trust. What's so engaging with this segment of the audio is that it's relatable. For audiences, particularly for those who have had to move through challenging family discussions themselves, it's a common model: defensiveness first, then thought, and eventually incremental comprehension. It illustrates that even in volatile situations, honesty and openness can open doors to resolution. Robyn's reply also speaks to the richness of life in a big, complicated family. Juggling several relationships, roles, and expectations is never easy. Her words illustrate the difficulty of keeping fairness, truth, and emotional equilibrium in a home where every is seen and read. At the conclusion of this conversation, listeners experience a quiet but profound shift. The confrontation hasn't miraculously answered all questions, but the family dynamic is now in place where understanding and accountability exist side by side. Relief, yes, but also still present curiosity. Questions regarding what's next, how lessons from this conversation will shape the next interaction, and how the Brown family to manage their own public life. This exchange in the hacked recording reminds onlookers that even in times of tension, discord, and complicated relationships, space exists for growth, reflection, and bonding, a lesson that applies far beyond the confines of the Brown home. By the close of the leaked recording, there is a quiet feeling of closure that starts to set in, but not all questions have been satisfactorily answered. Meri and Janelle's demands for honesty have made Robyn examine her own decision, think through the effect of what she has done, and think about how her words and decisions have affected the family. Though there is still some tension, the family finds itself at a crossroad, a point where relationships can be made stronger through love or broken by unresolved doubts. For viewers, this leaked conversation is much more than gossip or drama. It is an honest lesson in communication, accountability, and the difficulties of overseeing a large, complicated family. There is a remarkable human element in hearing the real voices of Meri, Janelle, and Robyn, without the filters of cameras, scripts, or production edits. Subtle emotional beats come through, revealing hesitation, concern, and vulnerability that would normally go unnoticed on television. These nuances make the story relatable and compelling, allowing the audience to connect with the Brown wives as real people navigating real-life challenges. As the conversation dies down, it's apparent that beneath it all lies care. Even at times of tension and disagreement, there is a concerted effort to maintain relationships and restore trust. The respect and love that exist between the wives are palpable, woven through every word, hesitation, and reflection. This rings true especially for older viewers, who doubtless have had similar experiences in their own family, where hard words need to be said, but always with the aim of understanding and remaining connected. The soundtrack also emphasizes the special challenges of the Brown family predicament. Keeping multiple marriages, many children healthy, and the public eye at bay is no easy task. Errors and miscommunications are unavoidable, yet the willingness to engage with these problems honestly, with sincerity, shows a deep commitment to family unity. It is a testament to the strength needed to maintain such a large, interconnected home, and it speaks to anyone who has struggled with the challenge of maintaining complex family dynamics. Although questions still linger, the discussion is a turning point. The family members exit the conversation with a better grasp of each other's points of view, and listeners are given a glimmer of hope that people can heal their relationships when honesty, conversation, and accountability come first. The emotional charge between them slowly eases from frustration and defensiveness to tentative understanding and forgiveness. There is a sense of relief in the air, but also a recognition that trust takes constant effort, a lesson at once simple and profound. In the end, this leaked confrontation is more than a trashy moment. It is a genuine glimpse into the Brown family's struggles, weaknesses, and connections. It is authentic, unfiltered, and ultimately human. For viewers, it is a reminder that even in messy family relationships, conflict and care can exist together, and tough discussion, when approached with care, can bring individuals closer together, not farther apart. This is the type of story that stays with one well after the podcast is over, making one think, feel, and smile at the realization of the delicate dance of truth, responsibility, and love that keeps a family together.